Abhishek, welcome to India today. This is a special conversation on two accounts. One is the love, the unconditional love your film has received, and second is to obviously discuss the details of the film, the process of making the film, and the love you've received for it. I want to start the conversation by talking to you about the process of getting that seed for the film. Like, where did the thought come of writing this story, getting into the details of it? What was the seed of Chandigarh Kare Aashiqui?
Thank you for having me on your show, Tushar. Uh, the idea came to me in 2017. A lady by the name of Simran Sani came to me with an idea about a transgender character. And it really fascinated me, but I was not ready for it then. And I was making Kedarnath at that time. But I liked it so much that I asked her to park the thought with me. And if it did resonate for some time with me, I'd probably make it. I couldn't promise her. So I told her to park it and leave it with me. It's only after I finished Kedarnath that idea was still playing in my head. And I brought my team of writers, and we developed the script of Chandigarh Kare Aashiqui, and it is the film that you see today. But the remarkable part is that Simran, who came to me back then, had two twins, had a set of twin boys, and they both have transitioned, and they're both girls today. And the transition was going on when we were filming Chandigarh Kare Aashiqui. So I think I did not choose the script. This thought, this idea, the script has chosen me to make it. I think there's a higher purpose that is involved in this to make this movie.
Right. So, when I spoke to Vaani, and she sort of walked me through the whole process of when she met you, when you had that conversation with her about playing this particular character, I wanted to understand from you, did you take this film to a lot of people, or what was going through your mind while casting this particular character? Because again, it's a very sensitive topic and issue. And also the person who's playing this character needs to be fully convinced, fully on paper, there physically, mentally ready to take on this. What was going through your mind?
We put a lot of heart while we were writing it, and we met a lot of trans people from the community, transgender girls, transgender boys, and people who just recently had surgeries, who've done the surgery a few years in, and we met a lot of them. So I think in the way Maanvi's character is written, although the lead actress is not a trans person, but the character is very deeply rooted into the character. The writing is very deeply ingrained because we met so many and we understood them and their dilemmas very intently, And when we did finish the script and we came down to casting it, we did talk with the idea whether we should cast a trans person to play this, But this is a first of its kind. And the idea is not just to make it, because I'm not from the trans community or the LGBTQ community. I'm an ally, So in my voice and the way I see it, there's no pain and there's no anguish, but there is a lot of empathy and there's a lot of understanding. So the kind of tone and the kind of telling that I chose, is different from someone who was probably from the community and was making the film. And we thought about who would be the right person to play it. And, if you went to someone who was very highly rated as a star, they would have so many issues, about their, about the stigmatization of the issue and what their brands would think and how they would be perceived. And nobody wants to touch it, because they don't want to risk anything. But I think Vaani was so well poised at that point that I wondered, that will she take the leap? Because I thought if she did, it could transcend her to a higher plane, And I shared the script with her and she took to the script immediately. But she had a few concerns. She wanted to know how I was seeing Maanvi and how it was to be treated because, something could look a certain way on paper, but eventually when it translates onto the screen, it could turn out to be something totally different.
Right.
So I spoke to her through it and, how I saw Maanvi, and I saw Maanvi to be a very dignified, evolved person. And I definitely didn't want to see her playing a victim. She was a champion, but in a very restrained kind of way. Like she could be empathetic towards to people outside, and she can understand why you look at her the way you look at her because you are unwithdrawn. And she will empathize with you. She will even engage you. But if you cross a certain line, you'll be whipped if you misbehave with her. Because that's how trans people are. So because they are very evolved spiritual beings, because they've been through so much emotionally, spiritually, and physically for the transition. that you understand the world much better than normal people do. And I think that conversation with Vaani kind of convinced her to come on board.
Right. And the film is not just pushing the envelope, but it is also opening doors for the LGBT community to have conversations about the issues that they go to, real issues. One is, do you think Bollywood is a little late in the day to sort of get into that space? Or do you think now is the right time to sort of, for a film like Chandigarh to also open doors for other filmmakers, other scriptwriters, other actors to come and try their hand at characters and topics like these? What is your take been on Bollywood, given the fact that Bollywood is very insulated that?
I'll tell you what I believe. I believe that our society, the Indian society, is a very evolved society. We are most open-minded. You have, this country is so vibrant. We've got a lot of things going on in this country. A lot of things are accepted. It's a wild country. It's a beautiful country. It's just that so far the films that have been made are the films that come from the LGBT community have a certain voice to it. It's their pain, and there's a certain sound that movie makes that is not inviting because it is so painful from where they're coming. And then there are certain films that have been made in the mainstream that are really pussyfooted on the issue. They don't really commit. They hint, and as if it's like a side joke or a side secret, but they don't address it full frontal, in mainstream. And so I think this is the first of its kind, which is a mainstream film that talks about the trans community. See, there are films that have hinted about some gay characters in films, but the trans community is a very different community. It's clubbed with the LGBTQ because they are all minorities and they find strength in numbers. But if you see the trans community, they are very different, very misunderstood, and they're completely in the dark. So I felt that the kind of narrative style that I want to have is a simplistic one and a normal one, normalizing a tone of normalization. Not something that, the intent was to start a conversation. And to start a conversation, you have to speak to the masses in a language they understand, in a more lighthearted, in a pleasant way. Of course, Maanvi has been through a lot and she has her pains, and I could put all of that into the film, but it's not for you to see right now. I'll not tell you, listen, first time I meet you, I'm not going to tell you all the pain that I have. First, I'll just introduce myself to you and say hello, and as you progress into my life, I will reveal myself to you slowly, But I'm sure this is only the first one. This is not the last one being made on this. And I'm hoping that many more movies like these are made and many more, better films are made.
And Abhishek, given the love the community has shown to the film, the community, especially the trans community, has shown to the film. And now that the film is streaming on Netflix, it's also opened up to a wider audience and a lot of more people are watching it now, right? Now that you have made this film and you've dabbled into it and people have reacted to it, do you see yourself again revisiting topics, characters in the LGBT space in the future, writing characters? Because given that we've seen that sensitive portrayal from you.
Of course, why not? But it all depends. It has to be special. Like this is a film about the gay community because there are many films that are made about the gay community. But the trans community is really fascinated me. And I felt that they really needed this movie to be told. I felt that this is something really important. Hence, I stepped out to make it. Unless it's not really charging me up, I can't step into it. I'm not. See, in my films earlier also, I tend not to go back into a world that I've already done. Like if I've done a Rock On, I did Kai Poche, then Futur and Kedar. Now they're very, very different films. For me as a filmmaker, I have to have fun. I have to enjoy it. I have to explore new territories. It's like a real existence for me when I write a script and I create those characters. So I have this opportunity to dive into a completely new arena. So I like doing that. But to answer your question about doing more films with LGBTQ community, of course I would like to. But they should be different films and different dilemmas and different scenarios. Something that's not been done.
Right. And Abhishek, of all the messages you've got, right, on your phone, on social media, people from the community, people from the film industry who've seen your work, what was the one thing that sort of stood out or the one message that really touched you and you were like, okay, this is special?
The film is just out on Netflix and it's getting some really great, we're getting some really good feedback and it's just pouring in as we speak. But most important is the feedback from the trans community. They have embraced the film, which was for me a huge thing, because they are so sensitive and they are so protected that because of the bad representation they've had in the past, every film would just either be mocking them or making fun of them and not even close to understanding them. So they having received my film well is nothing can beat that. But other than that, I think Hrithik Roshan, because when the film came out, a lot of people felt, oh, this is so simplistic. But they don't realize to make something simple, you have to go through so many complicated things, unknot them, and present it in a simplistic thing. Just because you see it simply doesn't mean that it is so simple to make, But it's Hrithik who called me, and it just come out in the theater the first day or second day, and he saw the film and he came back and he said that this is one of the best movies he has ever seen. And I asked him, did you really mean it? He says, I 101% meant that, because it is. I can't believe you made a film so simplistically, so naturally, and he really appreciated the stroke, and that made my day.
Absolutely. Hrithik doesn't say things if he doesn't mean it. So coming from him, obviously, it's a really cool compliment. My final question to you is, what are fans going to expect from Abhishek next, given the fact that you do take long gaps between your films and you like to take your time before you move on to your next? You're not in a rush to do anything. What space are you in creatively?
Well, I've been working on a couple of scripts, and I'm always in a rush to make another movie because I live in my movies. When I don't have a movie to make, I'm just like a fish out of water. So I have to be making a movie, and I don't know, I can't say what it's about at this stage, but hopefully it will be faster than the gaps between my movies will be shorter, and I hope I can get to work as soon as possible.
Right. On that note, I think Chandigarh Kare Aashiqui definitely needs more rewatches and reruns. And this was an amazing conversation, Abhishek. Thank you so much for speaking to India today.
Thank you, Tushar. It was a pleasure.
See you. Bye.
Bye.